Silver Doctors, live on air, 12:15 p.m. on Wednesday, the first day of the month of May. Excited to be back with you for some more back and forth and to find out what's on your mind, as well as to share a couple things that we want to talk about. And so, as always, it's me and Paul Half Dollar. And unfortunately, due to, some camera issues, as you see over here on my shoulder, he's with us, but he's not here with us via camera. So, Paul, how you doing this afternoon, my friend?
Doing good. Thanks for working through with these issues with me. It's our fourth show, so we're going to iron out these kinks sooner than later, Mike.
Exactly. So you can't see me, I can't see you, but you're there, so let's have some back and forth. So, as always, people, I'll give it a second, let more people join in, and we can go back and forth. But more importantly, there's some things that you want to talk about and some things that I think that are worthy of talking about, especially what's happening down in Venezuela right now, because it looks like there's an attempt to really speed up this push to remove Maduro from presidency. So what are your thoughts on that?
It does. We were talking about disinformation last week, and there is a whole lot of it going on again this week too. Mm-hmm. Did you get the two pictures that I sent you?
Yes, I did.
Okay. If you can put the first one up on the screen, that is a picture of Juan Guaido when he was making his speech in the early morning hours, what would have been Tuesday morning, pre-dawn, and he was basically doing a call to the military, and the first thing he was talking about was, this is going to be peaceful and all this and that, but I need the military to come out and join me, and we're going to make this happen. Yeah. So my point is, I speak fluent Spanish, and I watched that whole 3 minutes when he was, making his call to action to the military. Now, what is interesting about that is he was talking about, come down and join us at, I think it was called Chalapa or Chalupa. I can't remember the exact name of the airport, but he was saying, we need everybody to come down to this airport, and this is where we're going to make it happen.
Yeah.
Now, if you look at that second picture I show you, it took place on a bridge, and those are Guaido's men, right? So that is part of the opposition to Maduro. And, CNN is breaking this stuff like it is going to be like they're exchanging gunfire and whatnot. And if you look at the video, apparently these people are exchanging gunfire, but Guaido's men are just casually strolling along the bridge. They're casually walking down the bridge. They've got their rifles pointed straight up in the air, almost as if they're celebrating like a soccer game win or something like that.
Yeah.
Now, so here's my point, right? If you're getting shot at by the Venezuelan military, you're not just going to nonchalantly be walking around with your rifle pointed straight up in the air, firing off shots. That's not what happens when you come under fire. The first thing you do is you take cover if you can, and the second thing you do is you find out where it's coming from and return fire.
Yeah.
Right? So here's my point about that. And this is what is really, this is actually pretty sick when you think about it.
Yeah.
And that pre-dawn call to action that Guaido made. He knew he was calling people down there, right? So what he was doing is he was calling people down there. Why is his men walking around nonchalantly firing their rifles in the air?
Yeah.
Because they're trying to draw fire from the Venezuelan military. They're trying to make it seem like they're shooting at the Venezuelan military to get the Venezuelan military to shoot back. Yeah. Now, why are they trying to get the Venezuelan military to shoot back? This is the sick part, right? They're trying to get the Venezuelan military to shoot back because they want civilians dead. And the reason why they want civilians dead is so that they can get sympathy for this push for regime change.
Yeah.
So this whole thing is just dirtier than it could possibly be. And, if you just look at the evidence that's right in front of us, the mainstream media, CNN, right? They lie about everything. Why would they be telling the truth this time? They're talking about they're exchanged in a firefight. They're not. They're just walking around the bridge, firing off pop shots in the air, trying to get the Venezuelan military to do something.
Yeah.
So, it really goes to show you who is the calm and collected in this situation, right? It's the Venezuelan military.
Yeah.
Right? Who's the instigators? It's Juan Guaido, the person who at the beginning of his address is saying, we're going to look for a peaceful solution and all this and that. And, Bolton and Pompeo and Mike Pence and they're all just livid about this.
Yeah. So I actually as of right now, because the images you sent me there, I didn't get a chance to pull them up on time, but yet now I have the actual video from Juan Guaido's Twitter account right now, and so it's interesting how the video where he's doing the explanation as you were talking about is early morning dawn. So this is clearly a deliberate attack, probably planned a couple days ago or yesterday rather. And they really, really hoped that it would get momentum and take off and people will really get behind the push to, remove Maduro. But yet my question, why did they attempt to, or why was it publicized that they were looking to invade the military base or start problems at the military base in particular?
I'm not sure why the military base in particular, because remember, Russia has a helicopter school in Venezuela now, right? They just opened up last month a military helicopter training academy, right? Which tells me that there's going to be Russian helicopters flying around Venezuela, right? Yeah. That's what that's telling me. Yeah. So I don't know if it has something to do with positioning and taking this base or not, but it's on, I think, the west side of Caracas, and I think the place, part of it is getting the people to that bridge, right? There's only two ways you can go on a bridge, right? So that's a place where you can funnel in people and trap them. I mean, this is black ops type stuff that's going on here.
Yeah, clearly. Yeah, so it looks like it didn't work. And so they were in the streets. And so I actually saw some videos. I saw mainstream videos from this country, and then I saw alternative videos from all outside and other countries around the world. And it's two different stories, of course. And so it looks like they were trying to instigate and promote the idea that it's already war going on now. Because I saw a tweet, I think late last night, about Mike Pompeo saying that, perhaps it's time for U.S. intervention right now to go down there and keep this from escalating type of thing. But yet, I guess on the alternative media side, from videos I saw, things had already died down earlier in the day. So there were actually no continuation of all that fighting or whatever they wanted to have us believe was going on. So so do you think it was a success from the people who want war, or did it fail?
No, it was an absolute failure. It's interesting too, because I can't remember what his name is, but the gentleman who does the Ron Paul Liberty Report with Ron Paul, he sent out a tweet showing, they're speaking in Spanish again, but these are like young 18-year-old Venezuelans, and they're in the back of an MRAP, they're in the back of an armored vehicle, and they're basically saying, we were duped and we were tricked and we had no idea what we were getting into. They're talking frantically, and it's only for about a minute, but that makes complete sense. Another thing that they're talking about is this one vehicle that was running over people, right, supposedly. Yeah. Now, sure, but here's my point. Who was in that vehicle? We don't know who was in that vehicle. We don't know that those were Maduro's troops in that vehicle, right? Yeah. And this is exactly what Guaido is calling for. This is exactly what he's wanting. He's wanting people to come out, right? Because the quickest way to get sympathy, how did the first Iraq war start? Oh, they're killing babies in incubators, right? How do we justify our actions in Syria? Oh, Assad's poisoning his own people, right? Yeah. So this is sick and twisted, but that's what the deep state needs. They need civilians in Venezuela to die, and they're using them as pawns, right? Yeah. And the other thing about that vehicle that was running over those people, right? You're getting Molotov cocktails thrown at you, right? You got people doing all sorts of stuff, literally trying to kill you, right? Who knows if they're going to throw a pipe bomb or what else they're going to throw at you, right? Yeah. Sure, it's armor, but you can blow out the tires and wait it out. I mean, there's a number of things that you can do. So this whole thing just stinks to high heaven. And, my question is, are we truly draining the swamp when we do stuff like this? Just last year, it was either October or November. President Trump was speaking before the United Nations saying the United States will never tell another nation what to do. Isn't it ironic that we're telling Venezuela who the president will be with a guy who wasn't even on the election ballot, right? So this whole thing is just a deep state, terrible operation that's going on. And, this is regime change. This is endless war. This is, empire. 100%. And, it bothered me a lot yesterday, especially, when you see the thing progress, right, from the call to action in the morning, hey, coming out, support us on this bridge. And then you see Guaido's troops just walking around, firing off shots, trying to get the Venezuelan military to fire back. I mean, this is sick and twisted. Yeah.
And so as I scroll through, Juan Guaido's Twitter account, and so it looks like the hashtag that was used, or because it looks like on April 28th is when the whole Operation Libertad I guess became the narrative for yesterday as well as today. And so it looks like the goal is to get 1 million or so people in the streets to really mark May 1st as the day that they take back their country. And so Operation Libertad is what it's being labeled as. And so it's interesting. Now, did you have a chance to actually see or the follow-up late last night from President Maduro on his speech on how it failed and how the coup didn't work and that the army's not really divided and after all and it doesn't seem to work? Did you see that?
Right. Bits and pieces of it, not completely specifically. But I will say this, correct, I don't think it worked. And on top of that, Maduro has the support. It's the Western media that's spinning it to make it seem like he's this evil dictator doing all these ruthless things, right? When really, he hasn't even crushed or squashed this rebellion. He hasn't arrested Guaido. He hasn't done any of these things. So, again, who is the one that's keeping cool? Who's the one that's keeping a level head about all this? Right. Yes, I think it has failed. I think that Maduro is still in power. He's still in control. And now, you're getting to the risk of it's just going to be a flat out assassination attempt at this point.
Now, my question would be to you. Of course, we don't know. And then also, let's get into some questions or whatnot from those that are watching us. But how come they have not attempted to arrest Juan Guaido yet? Because he's definitely causing problems. He's clearly violated all types of laws and things of that nature, and he's an enemy of the state. He's a terrorist in his own country, according to their constitution. So how come he hasn't been arrested? Is it the fear that if you touch him, that gives the U.S. A little ammunition to come down there and to, I guess, get their guy out type of thing, or what?
It can be that. It can also be the fact that it's showing that he does have a peaceful side of things, that he wants to resolve it diplomatically as opposed to militarily or as opposed to with force. We arrest people and we kill people all the time, right? And they're not killing people and they're not arresting people because they want to just move forward and get on with their business. Right. So I think that has some of it to do as well.
So I said, I'm thumbing through some of the threads of this Operation Libertad, and so people can see it on the screen. And the White House posted a picture, a 19-second clip of that military vehicle running over people in the crowd. And then it says here, this is corrupt, illegitimate Maduro regime. And this is from the White House, showing a 19-second clip of people of this truck running people over. But as you mentioned before, there's no telling who's inside of it. We don't know anything. All we see is a truck running people over. But yet, could that easily be, a paid opposition or some type of, false flag event to really rouse up people? Because when the White House posts this and don't give no true narrative beginning and after, it's real. It can be very deceiving, I believe.
Good point. I didn't know that the White House had posted that. But here's the thing, right? I don't know where they start that video, but if you look at that video, I'm probably, I would be safe making a bet that if you would run that video, it probably does not show that they're throwing Molotov cocktails point blank at those vehicles, right? And like I said, you don't know what's going to happen, and people are literally trying to kill you. What are you going to do? Right? What are you going to do? I mean, that's exactly what they're wanting. So I can see you're starting that video there. But before all that happens, they're literally attacking those vehicles. That's what you do in that situation. It's sad, right? But I mean, if this is war, see, I'm looking at the clip right now, and they didn't show that they were throwing Molotov cocktails all over those vehicles.
Right. And so my question is, those vehicles there, because I saw a video earlier in the day, because I follow a variety of people who are just normal citizens down there. And so those vehicles earlier today were just buzzing through the streets. And so are those Venezuelan, sanctioned vehicles? Because I've never seen those particular vehicles. I've watched a couple clips on their military preparations, but I've never seen those vehicles. So are those actually Venezuelan vehicles, or are those some of those vehicles that probably came in as foreign aid and relief aid? And are those it's a lot of things that make you wonder.
Exactly. And on that note, those are white UN vehicles, first of all. And second of all, from that airfield, right, we saw lots of Guaido's men in those types of vehicles, right? We've
Yeah.
seen other video footage of his men in those vehicles.
Yeah.
And this is false flag tactic 101. I mean, I don't understand why people won't open their eyes to this, right?
Yeah.
I mean, how do you get, problem, reaction, solution, and you kill a bunch of people, and then you can create that problem to then come in and get your solution by force.
Yeah.
That's what this is leading to.
Yeah, man. So let's dial it back a little bit and check in with those that are watching us. Let me go to my screen here, and so in the chat, let me refresh this chat, and actually let me pop it up here. So let's see if we got some questions or anything out there to find out who's joining us today. We typically just start off with our normal format of welcoming people.
Yeah, so, that's true. We had a little technical difficulties.
Yeah, threw us off a little bit. So let's find out in the chat. So I'm gonna scroll up to the top and see what we got here. So as always, appreciate you guys tuning in and seeing we got Mellow Stacker out there. We got Turkey Sandwich says God bless Trump in 2020. We got Jess Garcia says I think to learn with you guys. Thanks for sharing the knowledge. Appreciate you, my friend. What else is out there? Anybody else out there? So as always, for those that are watching, let us know what's on your mind. Let us know your thoughts about this whole situation here in the chat. And then we can definitely go back and forth with you guys as well. It says Maduro has the upper hand.
I think he does have the upper hand, right? Yeah. And that's another thing that's interesting, right? Where was the blame set? The blame was set at Cuba. Come on. I mean, give me a break. Cuba's still driving around in cars from the 1950s, right?
Yeah.
Notice what they're not saying. They're not saying Russia. They're not saying China. You Google Chinese soldiers in Venezuela and nothing comes up. It's being completely blacklisted. But we know that the Chinese have boots on ground in Venezuela. Yeah. We know the Russians have boots on ground in Venezuela. So yeah. I completely agree. Maduro does have the upper hand in this. And furthermore, the rest of the world is just getting absolutely sick of it. All of this just blatant, because no country is better off when we do these things. I mean, look what happened in Libya. The Middle East is completely destroyed. Look what's happened in Libya after Gaddafi. I mean, none of these things ever end well, and they all wrap it around the whole, we've got to spread democracy to the free people of the Venezuelan people. And so I just get, worked up about it, and I shouldn't, but, it's just the deep state unfolding right in front of our very eyes.
Yeah. So the question will be, where does this thing go next? Like, where did this? So what's the next thing? Because I'm assuming that the Western media, predominantly starting here in the United States of America, is going to continue to say, it's all out war in the streets down there. They're Maduro's out there hurting his people and all that. But yet all the other videos show the opposite of that. And so will they continue to incite the need to go down there, even though it looks like it's not, what it is on the surface? What are your thoughts? Will we end up going down there before spring is over with?
Possibly, because if you look at the Middle East, right, Saudi Arabia making a pivot east. If you look at, Africa making a pivot east. My point there is Venezuela has proven oil reserves, and in order to defend the petrodollar and to keep selling oil in dollars, this is just a latch-stitch effort to run the dollar, as hard and as long as possible. And quite frankly, they're going to run it until the wheels fall off. So that's what I think this is about, in essence, right? Yeah. This is about controlling their oil field. But guess what? China and Russia have massive investments there, and they have a vested interest in it as well. And, we're coming off the cusp of, we had the first Iraq war in the early 90s. Then we basically had constant war since the turn of the century. So we're coming up on, 15 years of constant war. The United States military is burnt out. We can't handle a military intervention in there. That's why we're trying to get it to happen naturally. But what's it showing you when there's no natural uprising? It's showing you that the support is actually for Maduro, right? So that's why I think, when push comes to shove, next up is going to be an assassination attempt. So.
Interesting. So now, if that, I of course don't want to see that happen, and so I would imagine that Russia, China, who has presence there, and like I've always mentioned in the past, is that it always seems like Russia, Vladimir Putin and his party always seems to have the one-up step on everything we do here. So it always seems like Russia is always one step ahead of everything we do here. So I would imagine that they anticipate them intensifying pressure on Maduro and considering things as the things you just mentioned. Now, how much longer before Putin or Xi Jinping come out and say, hey, let's establish an open presence now in Venezuela to protect our interests, and let's like remove from behind the scenes. Let's come out publicly and make some statements and really, show that we are for Maduro. Now, do you see that happening as a counter move or a step ahead of that next thing?
Well, they are. Yesterday, Russia released an official statement about what happened yesterday, and that, talking about how they fully support Maduro, and they want the United Nations to see this as blatant offenses to, international laws and international norms and whatnot. One of the things I wanted to say about the whole Russia thing, I remember back in, I think it was either 2000, it was somewhere in 2015. I don't remember exactly when. It could have been late 14 or early 16, but I'm pretty sure it was 2015. This is when we were bombing Syria pretty much every day.
Yeah.
And this is when ISIS was really big in there. When I was in Iraq, ISIS wasn't even a word, right? Yeah. But that's beside the point. I remember distinctly, I can't remember what month it was in, but Russia took their symphony, right, their national symphony orchestra over to Syria, and they were playing in this like ancient bombed out amphitheater, right? And it got no press in the Western media, but it just goes to show you that, it's all about peace, and it's all about, whatever is true and just and correct, that's going to have the upper hand, and that's what's ultimately going to prevail. Yeah. And when it comes to what we're doing in Venezuela, if it gets bogged down too much, like with Syria, right, then we're just going to pull out and we're going to move on to the next thing, right? And like I said, there's no way that the swamp is ever going to be drained if we just allow this type of stuff to keep on happening. I mean, I don't see how it's mutually exclusive. You can't say we want to drain the swamp, but at the same time say we're going to invade all these nations and overthrow all these governments, right? Because that is the swamp.
Yeah. Man, so right now I have up a Twitter from Marco Rubio, and it says the entire world just watched a National Guard armored vehicle ram into a crowd of citizen protests in Caracas. How far will leaders of military allow this assault on their own people to go in Venezuela?
Yeah, exactly.
So yeah, when you have political figures, and so clearly Marco Rubio has something against and for the need of intervention in Venezuela that it's very sickening. And so I would imagine, as a political figure, you would want the full scoop as opposed to pumping your own narrative and your own interests in these type of tweets here, because the world watch you as well. So, do you have a thorough understanding of what's going on, or are you already set that we need to go down there and remove Maduro because that's your instructions from whoever you're taking orders from?
Exactly. And he's from Florida, right? He's not in the State Department. He's not in Trump's cabinet, right? He's supposed to be representing the state of Florida.
Yeah. So why is he so outspoken and ready for the U.S. to intervene in other people's affairs when I would imagine Florida can use some leadership down there with their issues that they have, I'm sure.
Yes. Okay, so I just wanted to bring those things up because there's a lot of disinformation out there. But if you wanted to, move on, I can move on at this point from that topic.
Definitely. So let me check back in with the chat and see who's any new people joining in, what some thoughts are out there. And so let me see what the next one. I see first time on the live stream with you, like your interview with the guest. What will this do to the price of silver in Venezuela? So it looks like someone wants to know about the price of metals in Venezuela. So that's basically the economy and the monetary system there. And so what are your thoughts on that? Like, because I don't know much firsthand about the availability of precious metals. I've had a couple guests on my show that mentioned that they don't really have access to and understand the importance of it. So do you think there'll be any type of price of silver, or if it's important down there, or will it be talked about from Venezuela at all?
Well, right now you're in the midst of the crisis, right? So, I don't think that we talk about how silver and gold, when they catch that bid during times of crisis, they're just not going to be available, right? And I think that's what's going to be happening in Venezuela right now with silver. And then the other thing you got to understand is the people don't have anything at all. I mean, they don't even have food. So, silver and gold, that's the absolute last thing on their mind right now.
Yeah.
And that's the other thing, right? And not to keep going back to this Venezuela thing, but when you look at the people that were on that bridge yesterday, these are well-fed people. These are predominantly light-skinned, white people, as opposed to not looking like, like Maduro, basically like he's got part Indian mixed in with them, right? So it's like these people that are supporting Maduro, this is the upper echelon of Venezuelan society. These are people who have vested interest because they're the ones that are going to be, doing all the corrupt things with the Western corporations when they go in there and establish all of this, taking over the oil and the gold mines and what have you.
Yeah. So I actually have, the silver price up. I haven't checked in with it today. And so let me see. Reconnection successful. So we are back. So we're disconnected for a second, but we're back on. Mm-hmm. And so, okay. So what I was hinting at, and also for those that are watching, let us know if we are good. Looks like we lost connection for a split second there. It says brass gold. Okay, so we should be good to go, I believe. Okay. So let's keep moving right along, and we'll just make sure it works smoothly. So what I was mentioning was it looks like the price of silver has been, I guess, predetermined. I would say that to be around this mid-teen range. And so is that, what do you think? Is that like by design, or they just can't get it any lower, or they refuse to let it go higher? Or what are your thoughts?
All three of those. And just to answer that one question, 7 cents down is a hard hit. No, that's not a hard hit, but it's part of the demoralization because it's been several months of a hit.
Yeah.
But I think that, it's a little bit of everything because, what happens with price, right? What happens with anything, right? Mm-hmm. Anything, any good or service is always changing price, right? And silver goes into bull runs, it goes into corrections, right? And right now we're in a correction. Now here's the thing about a correction. A correction can happen over price, but it can also happen over time.
Yeah.
So I think that this correction that we're seeing now in silver is a correction that's been playing out over time as opposed to over price. And I think it's pretty much run its course now. My downside target has been 1450. I think we're in the 1470s today, and it's been hit again today. I do think there's explosive potential over the next couple of days for a price move. But my point there is, I think that silver is consolidating over over time. And I think that what's happening with price is we're stair-stepping in dollar increments, right? Yeah. We spent several months, at the end of the year at a $14 price range. We've been spending several months now at this $15 price range. I think we're going to shoot up to $17.50 pretty quick, and then they're going to hit it back down to $16. Then we're going to spend several months consolidating around $16. Then we'll shoot up to $18.50. Then we'll come back down to $17. We'll spend several months consolidating at $17. I think that's what the plan is, because I think they're literally going to fight us and try and demoralize us every step of the way for every $1 increment in price.
Yeah. So what that tells me is that, and I always mention this about the manipulation side of things, that, I've come to appreciate and to value manipulation because it just buys those that are in the know a little bit more time to accumulate. But it gives time for those that are not in the know a chance to find out about what's going on and really begin positioning themselves in this particular asset class here while they still can. Because, of course, when it does blow and it pops, everyone's going to hear about it. And then it's going to be the newbies, people who have no idea what money really is. They're going to be trying to get in when it's already taken off and run the risk of getting in when it's high before it's slammed back down again. So, that's where we're at, man. It's unfortunate, but it gives us time, I believe.
It does. It does give us time. Yeah, exactly.
All right, so let's get back to the chat a little bit, see what's going on. Any questions, any thoughts? And are you reading the live chat too? What else we got here? Brass, silver, gold, guns. So it looks like it says, what do Venezuela people do to get and buy food and other needed items?
Venezuela has turned into a complete barter economy right now as far as for the average everyday person. And that's literally what it's coming down to. Going and trying to fish, right? And then selling some of those fish, just being resourceful however you can. I've hosted articles about how, they're digging through, nasty, polluted streams and rivers, trying to find anything of value to sell. Yeah. They're bartering for anything of value. And then the other way that they're surviving, they're attacking livestock and crops, right? Yeah. So that's what's going on. Then, of course, there's the unfortunate cases where, women and even children are having to sell their bodies. Some of the things that people don't understand, back when the hyperinflation was really taking hold, people would get robbed in the street for their hair, right? So, I mean, it's just completely cutthroat and a completely ruined society down there. The only thing that's missing between Venezuela and Syria is that Venezuela is not all bombed out, right?
Yeah.
That's the difference. So, as dysfunctional as it is, it's functional in their dysfunction, if that even made sense.
Yeah. So I'm back on Twitter, and it looks like, I'll actually pull it up on the screen, but it looks like Marco Rubio is within the last hour or so, he's out really trying to voice his opinions and concerns for the Venezuelan people and whatever. So I wonder, he's of Spanish descent. So is he Latin American? I mean, do you know what's his origin? His family history, do you know? Because I would, well, good to say he's not Venezuelan, but he has a very strong interest in these matters, like any other no other political figure that makes himself publicly known on the hour tweeting about what's going on down there.
Let me say this too, right? When we hear, right, and I don't want to talk about specific companies or names, but when we hear about the illicit gold smuggling, right, out of the illicit gold mining and the illicit gold refining, right, this whole black market, where's all that stuff run through? It's run through Florida.
Yeah.
Right? You don't think he has an interest in this, right? What's one way that the cartel can help supply this just-in-time gold inventory? Well, if you've got supply that's coming to the market illegally to try and send it wherever you can, and it's going through Florida, then you're interested in South America, aren't you?
Yeah, very interesting, man. So he definitely has a invested interest in this whole matter here. So let me see. Well, let's keep moving right along. It says, well, I'm not sure. I hear in the U.S. He told me it could buy meat that month. And so I'm not sure what that means right there. But
like an ounce of silver can buy like a month's worth of meat.
Yeah.
Right now the bottom line is I don't think that it can because you're in the crisis right now, right?
Yeah.
And for the barterability, right, that comes back as the systems are coming back online. Mm-hmm. When you're in the middle of crisis, first of all, if you're going out and buying a month's worth of food and anybody sees that, then you're pretty much dead because they're going to kill you for it, right?
Yeah.
So all of these things have to be done on the extreme down low because it's a matter of survival at this point.
Yeah, and that's another thing. And so me having followed a variety of, people in Venezuela, YouTubers out of Venezuela. So there's, apart from what we're told, what we see, everything, it's not completely dire straits down there. Like I've saw some videos where people outside of Caracas, along the coastline, of course the economy itself and the currency is an issue. But as you mentioned earlier, people find ways of getting around and utilizing other currencies and whatnot. And there are grocery stores down there with actual food in them. And so it's interesting to see how the mainstream media here only shows us the grocery stores where they're completely empty. But that's not the case throughout the entire country. And so, but we do know the currency is the problem because a lot of people don't have enough of the currency to get the goods they need in the stores that aren't probably well stocked up. So, I saw some price tags on how the prices fluctuate every day. And so it's definitely, there's two stories down there, but for the majority of people, it's not looking good.
There is, and that goes off of, I remember about a month ago now was, they're blocked this bridge and they're blocking humanitarian aid. That was a false flag off too. I mean, let's not even go down that route for today's episode. But my point is, you know what? They did get humanitarian aid, and it came from Russia. But guess what? It didn't get any press in the Western media.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
So we are only seeing a very skewed regime change view of what's going on in Venezuela, and it's quite sickening.
Yeah, I agree.
But there's more big news today,
yes.
and part of it is the Fed, right? They're doing their FOMC and their press conference today. But also big news is what President Trump tweeted out yesterday. Did you see his two tweets?
I did. Let me go ahead and pop up because he's very active on Twitter. Let me pop his account up.
You've got to scroll way down to you'll see like a video where he's talking about NASCAR, and it's just under those tweets.
All right, give me 1 second. Let me find the president here. Real Donald Trump. Yeah, this is. Yeah, so his presence on social media has definitely changed the game because it's good to say any political figure after him will definitely use this type of avenue to share their thoughts and opinions. And no need for the mainstream media in the Oval Office anymore. So let me scroll down. It looks like this dude's tweeting every couple of hours or retweeting.
Yeah, he retweeted a lot yesterday. So you got to scroll below the 2 NASCAR videos.
All right, let me keep it going. Let me put it on the screen. So I'll keep scrolling.
While you're scrolling, here's what I want to talk about with that. Okay, so these tweets basically hit on a few different things. He's calling for it was 2 tweets, right? The first one starts, China is adding great stimulus, and the second one is up like a rocket if we did lower interest rates and start money printing again.
Yeah.
But basically, just yesterday, again, our president is out there saying, we need to cut interest rates by 1%, and we need to go back to quantitative easing, right?
Yeah.
So, he has said that he himself, right, and I've shown this in posts, right, where he said, I have already made America great again, right? But he's claiming we have the best economy ever, but we have to cut interest rates by 1%, and we have to go back to money printing. And then in the very next tweet, right, he says, and with our inflation wonderfully low, and just on Monday I put out 6 anecdotal pieces of evidence of how inflation is actually crushing the average Joe.
Yeah.
But says, but with our inflation wonderfully low, with wonderfully low inflation, we could be setting major records and at the same time make our national debt look so small. Now, what people are going to instantly say is, well, he's talking about, growing your way out of the debt, right?
Yeah.
Because theoretically, yes, you can grow your way out of the debt. But if we've technically been in this recovery for 10 years, are we really going to grow our way out of this debt? So what that's telling me, by making our national debt look small, right? That's telling me that we're going to hyperinflate the dollar away because that'll make the debt look small.
Yeah. Yeah. Make the debt look small.
And this stuff is thrown out there, and it's just like, does it go over the heads of everybody? Or, why isn't alarm bells just ringing all over the place with stuff like this?
Yeah. Now, because I'm thinking, like, if you just look at the national debt, according to what's on the books, what's on the national debt clock, we're 20 was it 22 last time I checked? I'll pull up the debt clock, but 22 trillion plus, and we're running major deficits, and we're only, not even halfway through this year yet, and it's good to say they're going to, ramp up that thing some more. That does spell problems for the dollar. And so no matter what, as I always tell people, because he loves debt, because he values debt from an entrepreneurial business standpoint, debt has been his best friend because it's made him so much. I imagine if he's going to run this country like he does his businesses, then there's no limit to the amount of debt he'll be willing to take on because it'll give the illusion of prosperity, not really talking about how this is going to be repaid or not be repaid and what's going to be the consequences of this debt that he's going to run up. Because I always believe, according to all the prior presidents, every president, has doubled, the national debt according to their own issues and their own needs to appease the banks and political figures. So if President Obama did, I think it was 10 trillion, he doubled it under his watch to bail out the banks and stuff like that. I'm thinking so what does that leave Trump having to do in order to keep that same pace as far as his need for debt? So yeah, now will the world sit around and watch as a person who values debt continue to increase our national debt and on top of all other things? And so it's not going to be pretty at the end of the day.
It's not. And to take that one step further about why this is not necessarily good for the dollar, right? So just breaking down that tweet, he's talking about low interest rates and cutting interest rates. What exactly does that mean, and why is that not good for the dollar? Or more importantly, why is that good for gold or silver? Well, this is why it's good for gold or silver, right? Because the dumb argument we hear is, oh, well, gold doesn't pay any interest. Why would you ever want to have anything like that? But for many, many years now, right, real inflation, right, as in the real rate of interest, is actually negative, right? So the interest you can earn on a savings isn't even keeping up with price inflation on the street, right? So this is why when he says, we have low inflation, he's saying that because he wants low interest rates, because he doesn't want to make it seem like real interest rates are even lower than they are when they actually are.
Yeah.
So on the one hand, when you want those low interest rates, you're basically saying that instead of if gold doesn't earn interest, well, at least it's not losing money like a negative interest rate would, which is what real interest rates are. Real interest rates are negative right now.
Yeah. And so I'm sorry, I'm reading some comments that people put on President Trump's tweet, and they got a person here saying, you are literally calling for quantitative easing in the midst of one of the longest expanding economies in recent history. Are you insane?
Yes.
Oh my goodness. This is man, this can't get any crazier, man. This is ridiculous. He wants QE, and we're supposed to be in an economic expansion, is what we've been told for the last several years. So something is not lining up, and it's becoming more and more obvious that if right now isn't a time for people to really pay attention to these matters here, and as I always say, diversify, spread your roots a little bit outside of what has been conventional at this current moment, you're going to regret it as time goes by.
Yes.
Yeah,
all
man.
Excellent points.
Yeah, so we've been going now for about 40 minutes, so it looks like we may get ready to wind this thing down. It's been great as always. I think we've covered and hit on a lot of great things today, man. So we know for sure it's a couple things we're going to keep an eye on. One is going to be Venezuela, and then the other one's going to be President Trump's tweets on more funny money, more QE, more debt, more problems for our national currency and the world reserve currency. So Paul,
yes.
$50.
And then the Fed coming out today at 2:30 with their press conference. So I'm going to be watching the charts today because there's going to be action here in a couple hours.
Yeah. So what do you anticipate on? What are you expecting to hear, or what's the result will be?
The Fed can't hike interest rates today, right? Mm-hmm. Because the Fed funds rate is 2.25 to 2.5, and it floats, so it's basically 2.375. And the 10-year Treasury is 2.5. So if the Fed hikes the Fed funds rate, which is a very, very short-term overnight type of rate, right? Mm-hmm. That means that the interest rate on the Fed funds rate will be inverted with a 10-year benchmark of all U.S. Treasuries, right? That's the 10-year. Like if you want to judge the dollar, you judge it with the 10-year Treasury. So if the Fed hikes today, they're going to have a higher interest rate on the Fed funds rate than people would get buying a 10-year Treasury. So there's no way they're going to hike. And rate hikes aren't bad for gold or silver. But then again, the next move that people are anticipating is a cut. Now, I think they hold today, but either a hold or a cut, that's also bullish for gold or silver, right? Yeah. So either way, President Trump's out there harping on the Fed and what they should do. And then Jerome Powell, he's got plenty of opportunities to stick his foot in his mouth today at 2:30 when he has his press conference. Yeah. So, all of this is turning out to be bullish for gold and silver. And if I'm right that this correction has been a correction over time instead of over price, then we've got some real potential for an explosive move to the upside here in the next few days.
Well, explosive upside. I'm sure that's good news to a lot of people's ears. But yet, once again, we want to make sure we want to still be able to get these metals on sale for the most part. So we'll see how it goes. But Paul, $50. It's been great hanging out again this Wednesday afternoon. Apart from having a little camera situation there, it still worked out well. We covered a lot of great things. And more importantly, everybody who is still watching, don't be afraid to hit the thumbs up button beneath this video here. Show your support for the channel and the community. And more importantly, we'll be back here next week, Wednesday, same time. Hopefully everything ironed out and able to get more of your thoughts. And we can actually revisit today's events in hopes of things not getting worse by next week. So, Paul, any last thoughts you want to leave us with?
Next week, we will be on time, on camera, and kicking it up to an even new level, Mike.
I agree 100%. So, everybody, thanks for tuning in with us this afternoon. Definitely, if you found this information informative, because a lot of our family and friends, unfortunately, are not paying close attention about what's going on the way we've covered today. So, definitely share this video. And if you're new to Silver Doctors, hit that thumbs up button and subscribe to the channel so you can be a part of the community as we continue to grow and keep you guys informed. So other than that, be blessed, be safe, enjoy the rest of your day, and we'll see you next Wednesday, same time, same place. Tell a friend, bring a friend. Peace.